here in the high country of Victoria, and we're going to learn how to cook a steak on some coals, aren't we, Andrew?
Yeah, look, there doesn't have to be a huge amount of palaver with cooking steaks. I mean, I've just dug a 6-inch hole in the ground, and I've got a bit of wire mesh, which I always carry with me. I just chuck it on top of the coals like that.
Now, tell me about it, because you're not actually cooking over the flames, are we?
No, that's the mistake so many people make. You end up with incinerated steaks. It's awful, you know, so you're much better off to get a nice bed of coals, let the fire go down, and then put your steaks on. So that's going to heat up. That's pretty well ready. What I've got today is I've got a couple of these beautiful New York cut porterhouses that have been really nicely dressed.
And they're local?
They are local indeed. It's high country Hereford. So let's put them on there and let them gently cook away.
Now, tell us about the secret of making a good fire here.
Well, you want to choose your spot pretty carefully because, you know, fire's a great tool, but it's a terrible master, so you don't want it to get out of hand. You're best to choose a clear area, and you want to make sure that, you know, that the wind doesn't get away, so it can change directions. So you've got to clear the area of combustible material and always have some water standing by just in case it does get out of hand. And also pick your wood pretty carefully. You know, if you're down in the coastal areas, it's southern Australia, tea tree's fantastic. Further inland, if you get you know, over the Great Divide, the desert timber's fantastic. You know, mulga and stuff like that. It's very dense, and so it burns slowly, and you get these lovely red coals which will last all night. But yeah, look, I don't only light fires, I also put them out because, you know, this whole area in 2007 went up in flames.
I know.
Some of the worst fires, well, the worst fire since 1939, and that was an altogether frightening experience. It was, when you get those huge fires, they've got a mind of their own.
So speaking about that, once they've lit a fire, how do they make it safe once they've finished cooking?
Yeah, well, it's good, Pete, because fires are just dangerous things. I mean, they, you know, there've been some terrible burn accidents around campfires. Don't always assume that a fire is cold when you see, say, some ashes on the ground, because, especially with the more dense timber, there can be no smoke and you have lovely white ash and you'll think the fire's out, but it's not. So if you're lighting a fire on the beach or something, always make sure you put it out because, you know, people come along in bare feet and burn themselves badly. Yeah.
And I guess you've always got to make sure you put your fire out properly. Shovel some dirt or some sand over the top.
Well, I reckon the best way to put out a fire is just to shovel some dirt over the top of it. But out in the desert, I never do that. I always just leave the fire on top of the ground because the ash will come, the wind will come and blow the ash away, and you won't be left with a fossil fire. A lot of people like to bury their fires and they end up with a big pile of, well, a fossil fire that just lasts forever and is unsightly. And
you have an interesting way of sleeping out in the desert too, I've read.
Oh, yeah. on those really cold desert nights when it's sort of -8 or something, what I'll do with that very fire pit is I'll just shovel some sand over the top of it, and you've got to get the quantity right, and then roll my swag over the top of that, and you've got an electric blanket. But sometimes you can wake up at 2 in the morning parboiled.
So how long do you cook these for, Andrew?
Well, I'd give them probably about another 4 minutes each side until they're nice and brown on each side. But I don't know, how do you like your steak?
Medium rare, mate.
Yeah, me too. So we'll give them another 4 minutes or so, and then we'll put them on a plate and rest them with a tea towel over the top of them.
And have you got something to serve these with?
Look, I reckon we'll have it with a what the Thais call pak bung phai deng, which is very hot stir-fried greens with oyster sauce.
Fantastic. Stick around after the break and we're going to get cooking. So welcome back. The steaks are resting beautifully, and during the break, Andrew's put the wok on the fire. How did you do that, mate?
Well, I just took a whole pile of twigs and put them over the top of the charcoals that we cooked the steak on, and when the flame came up, I just whacked the wok on dry, and we're going to leave that there for about 3 minutes because your wok has to be as hot as Hades.
That is a proper wok burner now.
Yeah, you bet.
So the dish, take me through it.
Well, the dish is called, in Thai, pak bung phai deng. But if it was traditional pak bung phai deng, we'd be using water spinach. But for this dish, I'm going to use some Chinese broccoli. This is one of the easiest things you could possibly cook, and the Thais treat it like steak and eggs, or, you know, a fried egg on toast. It's sort of convenience food.
It's a staple for them, isn't it?
It's absolutely a staple, and everywhere in Bangkok they're tossing pak bung phai deng every minute. And the secret to it is a hot wok. It's so easy. All we're going to do is we're going to bash this garlic by just pulling it apart. And could you chop a couple of those green chilies?
Roughly?
Yeah, just as roughly as you like. I mean, the chilies are entirely to taste. And the Thais, they'll bash this. They'll actually just use the garlic with the skin on.
Really?
So we'll just chuck everything into that bowl there. And this is a great dish to serve on the road. You can pull off the road in your camper van or your four-wheel drive and just light a little twig fire on the side of the road and you've got the dish.
Where'd you get your Asian influences from, mate?
Well, my sister had a restaurant in Thailand for 10 years, or a couple of restaurants, and my father married a Cantonese lady when I was young, and so lots of Asian food came into the house. And what I love about Asian food is that it's easy to transport, so it's great out in the bush, and it's quick and very tasty. And what's great about this dish is it uses oyster sauce. And when I first tasted it, I thought, that reminds me of a Cantonese dish that my father's wife used to make, which was a beef with oyster sauce. And beef and oyster sauce go so well together, I thought pak bung phai dang and beef would be fantastic as well. So basically what we're going to do is take this and chuck it in that hot wok.
Sounds good. That wok's looking pretty hot, Andrew.
I reckon it's as hot as Hades there. And this is the most dangerous bit, because whenever you put oil into a pan this hot, sometimes it just combusts.
All right.
So that's not too bad, that's all right this time. Now, secret of this, you see that wok's mighty hot. And it all goes.
Oh, you love that sound.
And then you stir like mad, because the last thing you do is you don't want it to burn. This really is a 2-minute dish. And sometimes I'll have some cold rice in a tub in the fridge in the car.
Yep.
And so all you do is you stop by the side of the road, toss this, and serve it on top of the cold rice. And
nice one to feed all your tour clients, isn't it?
Exactly right.
How many people do you take out at a time?
Oh, look, our expeditions, we take up to about 20, 25 people. Yeah.
You go all over the country?
That's right, yeah. Down out in the Great Sandy Desert and the Simpson Desert. And we go to remote Aboriginal communities in the Western Desert regions. And now, all we're going to do to add to this is some of this Thai brown bean sauce. Just a splash, which just gives it a bit of a salty flavour. And some of this Thai oyster sauce. And I love this Ma Krua brand. It's real oysters, and it's got a great flavour.
How do you stop your bottles from breaking when you're on tour?
I put them into PVC stormwater tubes, which I put in vertically into a plastic tub. And so long as glass doesn't touch glass, nothing breaks.
You've got the best looking trailer I've ever seen, mate.
You like it?
I know.
I'm going to have to show you around it sometime. Bit more oyster sauce. So
smells great.
And it gives us this lovely sheen. And then finally, just before I finish, I like to add a little bit of fish sauce.
Oh, yeah.
Which gives it a nice saltiness.
This is looking so good. That'd be great with that steak too.
Yeah.
That looks just about done, is it?
Oh, it's fantastic. It's that simple, Pete. I mean, it's just the perfect travelling food. So we're going to put this on top of our steaks, those beautiful porterhouse that we cooked before. The Thais would call this steak with pak bung phai dang, but I'd call it steak with stir-fried greens with oyster sauce.
Fuel.
Absolutely.
Now, later on in the show, we're going to visit Brown Brothers Winery, where we're going to learn a little bit about food and wine matching. Thanks, Andrew.
My pleasure.
Great food, mate.